Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the RC West Oversight Committee. My name is Brenda Corona here with the Stakeholder Affairs Group, and I am joined by many individuals here at the ISO, as well as Ben Branch and Chris Hoffman, who will be helping taking this Oversight Committee. For today's call, we do have a few meeting reminders, as this call is being recorded for informational and convenience purposes only. So we request that if you have any permission of the RC West before pre-printing, please let us know. Materials related to the RC West Oversight Committee are available on the www.kaiso.com/stayinformedrcwest, and you'll see today's date, August 25th, with that the slides and agenda. If you experience any technical issues, please let us know through chat, and my event producer, Luke, and I can help make sure you could have any issues, we could call on you too. So the first thing we're going to go over quickly is the agenda. As you can see, today's agenda, we plan to do a roll call, and that will be led by Ben Branch, our chair. And then next, we will have an oversight committee business by Ben Branch and Chris about charter review, nominations for chair and vice chair. And then next, we will go over RC West operation update with a few folks from the ISO, as well as the working group updates here too. And then hopefully we will catch up on future agenda items as well as public comment for those on the call. And we will adjourn at 2:30. At this time, I will invite Ben Branch and Chris Hoffman to unmute yourselves from your device to take over roll call for today's meeting.
All right, thanks, Brenda, and thanks everyone for coming. So we'll jump into the roll call. This is always the funnest part of the meeting, kind of work through this and see how well everybody's able to respond. But do we have a representative from Arizona Electric Power Cooperative? Okay, not hearing any. Do we have a representative from Avista? All right, I'm not hearing a representative from Avista. How about a representative from Avangrid Renewables?
Oh, thank you. It just allowed me to unmute. Yes, Avangrid Renewables is here.
All right, thank you. I'm going to back up there. Maybe we were having some trouble with that. Arizona Electric Power Cooperative. Do we have a representative? Okay, still not hearing any. Avista. All right, not hearing any. Bank? Do we have a representative from Bank?
Hey, Ben, you skipped over APS.
Oh, I did. Thank you. All right, not hearing anyone from Bank. Arizona Public Service.
Hey guys, good. How y'all doing? Nice, good. Nice. These are 2-gen dispatchers, right? That's cool. So the system. Yeah, it's okay. We put robots there. Oh, sweet.
Great, thank you.
So Brenda, I'm not sure if everybody's able to respond, and then we do have some folks on mute that don't realize they're in the meeting, I guess. Do we need to check anything before we continue on through the roll call here?
This is Keith with Tri-State, just doing an audio check with you guys. I'm just a participant like everybody else. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Keith. Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right. Well, we'll just continue down the list. So we did have a representative from Avangrid, but we have not heard from APS or Bank. Bonneville Power Administration, do we have a representative?
Yes, Chris Sanford from Bonneville.
All right. Thank you. Ganassi, do we have a representative? Not hearing anyone from Sanase. Chelan County PUD. Not hearing anyone from Chelan. Hetch Hetchy.
Yes, Hetchy Water and Power is here. This is Lenny's Kimes.
Thank you. City of Reading. All right, not hearing anyone from City of Reading. Douglas County PUD.
This is Jeff Heminger with Douglas.
Thanks, Jeff. Grant County PUD.
And I really love what I'm seeing. And each one of my artist techniques to craft it.
All right, not hearing anyone from Grant County.
To be there.
Of course, this has been with Idaho, so Idaho is here. Imperial Irrigation District.
So this is a road from Caroline. Okay.
Lone Star.
What?
It's very,
All right then.
very heartfelt. You have that nice.
I'm a little confused, Brenda. I'm not sure on the background. So I'm not hearing anyone from Imperial or Lone Star. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power.
Sorry, this is Matt Smelser with IID.
Oh, thanks,
Can you hear
Matt.
me now?
Yep.
Right, thank you.
I've got you. Thank you. All right. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Do we have a representative? Not hearing anyone. Los Alamos. Not hearing anyone. Modesto Irrigation District.
Yeah, this is Toxie Burris from MID. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Toxie. Montana, Alberta tie line, Maddle. Do we have a representative?
Presenting to you a deconstructed apple pie.
Would it be nice to see a beautiful apple?
I did have like 5.
Not hearing a representative from Maddle. Nature Interwatch, Nature Inter Power Watch and Wind Watch. Do we have a representative?
I guess we're on Nature Inter. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Northwestern Energy. Do we have a rep?
I was very pleased by it. I think that you train, so it was.
Okay, not hearing anyone from Northwestern. Nevada Energy.
It's rich, it's generous, overall very good.
Not hearing anyone from NBE.
And Mike Brownson from NV.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Pacific Corps, do we have a representative?
To try new things. Yes. I wish you would have given me
yeah, Ben, this is Kathy Downey, but Eric Brickhouse is on as well.
Thanks, Kathy. Pacific Gas and Electric.
Good afternoon, Sandra Ellis representing PG&E.
Thank you. Portland General Electric.
Let's try this.
Do we have a? Okay, not hearing anyone from Portland General. Public Service Company of New Mexico. Right, not hearing anyone from Public Service Company of New Mexico. Puget Sound Energy.
Hey, Ben, Evan Sorrell is here.
Thanks, Evan. Salt River Project.
And I'm on.
That's right. Thank you. Southern Cal Edison.
Ben, this is Tony Edison.
Thank you. San Diego Gas and Electric. We have a representative from San Diego Gas and Electric. All right, Seattle City Light. right, not hearing a representative from Seattle City Light, Silicon Valley.
Let's start with the required.
Not hearing a representative from Silicon Valley, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, SMUD. Do we have a representative? All right, not hearing a representative from SMUD, Snohomish PUD.
And we do have Mark Willis from SMUD and Bank.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And Bob Frost from Portland General is on the call too. They submitted their chat.
All right, I noticed that Brad Kalbick from Avista is on as well, so we can add him.
There, Ben.
Hey, Brad.
Ben, this is also Robin Munugid with SDG&E. Sorry, I was on double mute.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much. So we have a representative for San Diego Gas and Electric as well. All right, I don't remember where I left off. Tacoma Power, do we have a representative from Tacoma Power?
You succeeded in the hardest.
Not hearing a representative from Tacoma. Transbay Cable.
All right, this is Brian Williamson with Tacoma Power. I couldn't get off mute.
Thank you, Brian. All right, we have Keith from Tri-State. I assume you're still there, Keith.
Yes, sir. I'm here. Thank you.
All right, Turlock Irrigation District.
This is Joe Gill with TID.
Thank you. Valley Electric Association.
This is Emily Schneider from Valley Electric.
Thank you, Emily. And West and WAPA Sierra Nevada region.
WAPA's here.
Thank you. All right, Brenda, that gets us through the list, and I think we went back through and added some. Do we need to check on any? Do you have a quorum? Are we all set?
And we've got a quorum. Sorry. Did we get anybody from EAPCO? How about from APS? Anyone from Sanase? Or Chelan? City of Reading? Anyone from Grant County? Lone Star? LADWP? Los Alamos? Adel? Northwestern? E&M? Seattle City Light? Silicon Valley? Snohomish? Transbay? I think that's it. So no one else. 26, Ben.
All right, well, that's greater than 50%, so I guess we're good on our quorum, and we can continue on with the meeting. All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks. So the next topic is Oversight Committee business, and I'll go ahead and let Ben go over the charter review.
Okay, Brenda, I have not received any materials showing any comments on the charter review. Do you have any comments that you or Chris have received on the charter review?
This is Tricia. So this is actually just to queue up the topic so we can initiate the charter review between now and the next meeting. So I guess it's a question of if you want to just assign it out to the Oversight Committee in general to see if anyone has any comments, or if you potentially want to take it on with a small breakout team.
Well, I guess I would take suggestions from the floor. I'm comfortable with us just soliciting for any changes or comments, concerns about the charter, anything that folks would like to submit comments on, and then we can collect those and see if there is anything that we need to do. However, if somebody thinks that a full charter review by a breakout team would be in order at this point, we'd be happy to entertain that. Does anyone have any preference there?
Just a reminder, we muted everyone, so please raise your hand so that way we can reduce background noise. So if you have a question, please utilize the raise hand icon above your chat window or press pound 2.
We'll give everybody a minute to figure that out to make sure we get any comments. So Brenda, maybe what we should do, so there don't seem to be any comments, maybe what we should do is send an email out to the representatives, either with a link to the charter or the charter itself, requesting comments by a particular date, maybe by the end of September. If there's any questions or need for review or changes to the charter, and then we can you and or the team there at CAISO and Chris and I can take a look at that and see where to go with those comments.
Of course, will do. I will make that as my action item to do that and have that linked up to the RC portal.
All right. Well, if there aren't any items to immediately address on the charter review, we'll take that as the next action item to get that out to everybody so we can take a look at that, make sure that charter still matches up for what we what our expectations are going forward, and move to the next piece.
The next item that we were going to speak about, just to queue it up, is nominations for chair and vice chair. We don't have a slide for that, but would you like to bring this up to everyone here on the call today?
Yeah, so Ben and Chris, our thought was that it is time. We appreciate the 2 years plus that the two of you have served. But per our charter rules, we should open up for nominations for new chair, new vice chair, or if you wanted to change roles, or however you'd like to do it. So we can kind of queue up the topic now, and then we could actually vote at the next meeting in Q4.
Absolutely. So we will open up the nominations here in just a moment. And but just for clarification, I guess there's some expectation that we would be able to nominate Chris for the chair position if he was interested, to create some continuity going forward.
The charter does allow for that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this time, I would go ahead and open the floor for nominations for, let's do nominations for the chair to start with, and then we'll take up the vice chair separately. But at this time, we would take nominations from the floor for the chair of the Oversight Committee.
But we're going to do another test next hour to see to test an additional variable. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
That is excellent. What that tells me that if we do it on the market, it works. If we do it on BOAP, it doesn't. Anka, can we test this on our stage on BOAP? Somebody have certificate for
Quite a
And
bit
what was the answer?
going on besides our meeting here.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
All right. Do we have any hands raised for nominations from the floor?
This time I don't see anybody in the queue. Once again, use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make nominations.
All right, folks. Well, we do need some nominations to help with this meeting and chair this going forward.
And it's Chris. Go ahead and put me in for nomination on the chair.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Do we have any other nominations for chairing the Oversight Committee meetings?
We do have a caller on the line who may have a nomination. Brad, I'm going to unmute your line right now. Brad, please go ahead.
I was just raising my hand in case you needed a second for the nomination.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that. So we do. I don't know if we need one or not, but we have one, so that's great.
Count me for a second.
All right. If there aren't any other nominations, and I suppose that makes sense, and I appreciate Chris being willing to sign on for another 2 years. So thanks, Chris. We'll make that the initial nomination. If there aren't any other nominations that come in, I think, Tricia, we could close the nominations right before we do the voting next at the next meeting. Is that
would be fine.
Okay.
Yep, that would be fine. Yep.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any nominations for the vice chair?
We do have a raised hand from Christopher Sanford. Christopher, your line's unmuted.
It's Chris Sanford from BPA. I'll throw my hat in.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that. Anyone else interested in being in the mix? All right, we can record that we also have a nomination for the vice chair, Chris Sanford from BPA. So thanks to Chris, and we appreciate that. We'll leave those nominations open until we come to the next meeting where we're going to vote. And at that time, we'll make one last call for nominations and then close the nominations and vote on the chair to accept the chair and vice chair nominations, or vote on who to select depending on the number of applicants, I suppose. All right, Tricia, I think we're ready to move into the next part of the meeting.
That would be good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Director of Reliability Operations. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? Yep. Did I get a good sound check? Do you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could you go to the next slide, please? Oh. We need to go down, the slides are out of order. So let's go down to the general operations update. Down towards the end, I believe. Keep going. Is that the end? There should be one in there called Operations Update. Yeah, that's the title. There's a
Next slide 14, if it's the same as what's posted on the public website.
There we go. Thank you. I'm not sure what happened to our PowerPoint. All right. So thank you. Thank you, Ken and Chris and Brenda and Chris Anford for volunteering to be vice chair. A couple things. It's been a pretty decent summer so far. We did have one heat spell or a week of hot weather where we set a year-to-date peak of 122.05 gigawatts. That was on August 17th, hour and 18. The historical peak, of course, was set in 2020. That's the most load we've had since that period of time. So represented a pretty good heat storm or heat wave, but it wasn't over the entire region like we experienced in 2020. We did have 2 BAs in RMOs, so that did help with sort of turning down some of the work on the system and stuff like that, and helped manage the system quite a bit. And we had no energy emergency alerts during that heat wave as well. Wildfire-wise, we've had normal wildfire activity this year. I went through and counted. We have 70 log items related to wildfires since we last met. Fortunately, we've had none of those fires have really risen to the point where they've caused regional problems on the BES system. We have had fires that have caused some lines to be forced out, but generally they've been isolated to a local area. So we'll keep hoping that it goes that way. We are approaching what I feel sometimes is the busier part of our wildfire season, which is September, when it really starts to dry out. But we still have the heat in California and potentially Oregon as well. Geomagnetic disturbances, we did have a GMD August 17th to 20th. That warning zone was at the north of the 50th parallel, so that was in the Canadian area. We saw no impacts reported in the U.S. or in Canada as well. So, but it was relatively good spike, and the Aurora Borealis was visible all the way down into parts of the Midwest and Iowa and stuff like that. So a pretty significant level there. Energy emergency alerts. We did have some EEA since we last met. We had an EEA2 with Avangrid. They had lost resources and they required an EEA2 to access additional reserve sharing group energy. And then also Avangrid had another one, an EEA1 on June 17th. They were fully resourced and they were concerned with their load forecast or their generation forecast and the contingency reserve sufficiency across peak, but they did make it fine and then proactively called the BA or called the EA1 on behalf of the BA and terminated it shortly after crossing peak. So just a good proactive step by Avangrid in that case. We did have an EA3 on June 5th. Sinansi had lost 600 megawatts of generation. And we'll go over that in more detail in the executive session. Chris and I were talking just before we brought the whole group in here, and it really has been a pretty decent summer so far. I feel like I should be knocking on wood when I say that, but I recall during our summer readiness webinars that Amber Motley, our weather forecaster, meteorologist here at CAISO and RC West, she had said the models were looking very much like the 2011 summer season, and I believe that that's what's bearing out so far. So let's hope that model continues to be accurate, and we should experience a pretty decent fall as well. Any questions on any of those items? Okay. That's it. I think that the next is the procedure review with Kathy.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Fernandez. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first slide we're showing here is the recently published procedures. So we had RC 470, loss of control center functionality for its annual review, just some minor formatting edits, and updated the PI information for clarity on that one. And the attachment BRC 470B, also for annual review, with just a minor update under operationally affected parties. And then, as you can see here, RC 130, we updated category 1 and 2 definition for RTCA post-contingency exceedances to align with the definition for insecure operating state in section 3.6 and 3.9. And then we had periodic review for 320, a new procedure for the NWMT Pass 80 operating guide that was published on 7/29. We updated RC 9310 for a new substation that was added between Humboldt and midpoint 345 kV line, and minor updates to RC 670 and 670A, and a periodic review for RC 9520. Do we have any questions for any of these recently published? Okay, I think we can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that this was continuing here. So continuing on with recently published, we had more periodic reviews, RC 9530, RC 640, 660, 670, 670A. These were all with periodic reviews and minor edits, more administrative type edits. RC 9120, we had a clarification for language in section 4.2 and 4.3 and added a footnote. RC 630A was updated due to WebSmart OMS release on 6/13, and then more periodic reviews for RC 210, attachment 210A, RC 430, plan review checklist. That was just a minor edit to operationally affected parties and a couple of formatting edits. And then periodic reviews for RC 560 and RC 9120. Any questions for any of these? Okay, we can continue on to the next slide, please. Okay, this is just showing you
upcoming procedure changes, which these were targeted for 824, and they did get published earlier today. RC 540A, we actually added RC 110 that just got updated for an annual review as well. That missed the slide deck. It kind of snuck in just within the last day. So RC 110, RC 540A, RC 610. Oh, and RC 610A is actually still pending. We're targeting by mid-September, hopefully early part of September. I know that's still being updated right now. I don't have details on the updates. RC 650 and 680 went out today along with RC 9220, 9320, and 9320A. And then RC 9710 also published today. We still have RC 9540 and 9550 on hold due to the incompatibility with a certain part of the IID and CAISO system. I know they're working on that. I don't have an update or an estimated time, but that is being worked on. I know that we have an update coming up that may address these issues. That's all I know on that. I think this is the extent of the procedure changes coming. Do we have any questions on any of these? I know that was kind of fast, but a lot of information to go through there. If there's no questions, I believe that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, we will go ahead and proceed to our next topic from our agenda, and it's going to be on RC metrics update with Vera, Venkata, and Ong. So I'm going to go ahead and find those slides here. At the meantime, Ong and Vera, can you please make sure you're unmuted so I could double check you're mute? You're not muted.
Yes, I'm muted. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and go on the first RC metrics slide. I think if this is the correct slide.
No.
I think that's
Okay. Okay. Yeah. How about? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Vera Venkata. Yeah. Can you go ahead?
It's in the public posting. It looks like it starts on slide 26.
Okay.
Yeah. It's slide 26.
Can you just show the previous slide, please, if you don't mind?
Okay.
No. Okay. 26. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. Next one.
Okay.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We have the SC solution is one of the important components of the applications. The solution is fed to many downstream applications based on which operating decisions are taken. So a few metrics are tracked at a very high level, and then these two, that is the telemetry errors and the anomalies, are the two metrics that are tracked. The telemetry are the inputs to the state estimator, and keeping them, the errors in these measurements, keeping them at a very low numbers is the objective, and hence these are tracked. Similarly, the anomalies are the ones which are processed by SC, on the measurements processed by SC, but identifies as part of the state estimator logic to see if these measurements are good, trusted, and if they can be used. And it identifies some measurements which are not consistent with the measurements around, and those are tracked as well. So these are the two which are being tracked, and that's what on a quarterly basis we show these values where we are, and with a monthly frequency. So currently we are at the second quarter, and that's where we have these details. But one thing I would like to say here is we are also categorized at a voltage level just to find out and then work on the areas where more errors are noticed. And can we go to this next slide, please? These are again two categories of measurements. There are the MW measurements and MVR measurements. So in this case, the MVR measurements, though not used by the markets directly, they are tracked as well because they provide the quality in terms of the voltage solutions or the reactive power solution, and has an impact on the line ratings calculations where we are with respect to ratings. So these two are the important metrics that we do track. However, one thing I'd like to point out here is historically the improvements that are made were so significant that we started thinking the benefits coming out of these tracking, particularly the anomalies, may be diminishing, and we have started reviewing them. That's so just to give an indication of what it means is out of the even telemetry errors. So let me first talk about the telemetry errors. There are 110 out of the 110,000 measurements that we use by state estimator. About 3,000 to 4,000 measurements are in telemetry error. But that's considered as quite low. That's one. And the anomalies, the number of anomalies are about 8 years back is about, in the last 8 years, I'd say the other way is about 300 to 400% increase in the number of anomalies, increase in the number of measurements, whereas the anomalies kept more or less the same number, that's in the range of 300 to 500. So this is something we are looking at and then see if they started providing a dimension returns and it can be replaced with a better metric such as something like transmission line flow residues. So that's what in the cards where we. Thank you. That's all I have actually. The next slide, please. It's, yeah, please go ahead. I think I'm done. Any questions are there on these two? Please raise a hand and I can answer these. Thank you. That's all I have. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. Hi, this is Wu from CalISO. This is the metrics for the RTCA non-convergence contingencies. As we can see, the month of April and May, we are about the same level. However, the month of June went up quite a bit. Based on our assessment, mainly it could be due to the number of force outages and events that Tim presented before, so that then a number of unsolved contingency went up in the month of June. Can you go to the next slide, please? And this is the metrics measuring between day-ahead contingency analysis versus the real-time contingency analysis. For the second quarter, April and May, we're trending down in the May. However, again, month of June went up quite a bit. and because of the RTCA was showing much more violation than the DACA because of the unexpected events and the forced outages. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is the metrics for measuring the CD tickets, issues being submitted, and the time of the resolve, and how quickly CD West resolved them. As you can see, in the month of May and the June, the amount of CD tickets being opened were quite a bit high. However, we are trying to keep up with them and then try to resolve them timely manner. So we, the trend of the average business day resolve them, and the average business day response from the ISO side quite a bit much better. And we close out the CD tickets very quickly in the month of June. Can you go to the next slide, please? I believe that's it for me. Is there any questions, comment related to those 3 slides?
To make a comment, please use the raise hand icon, or please address your questions to our panelists.
All right, thank you. We can go to the next one. I think that's
your last slide.
Oh, that's my last slide, right? Okay, thank you.
Next item we have is working group updates. Real-time operations will go first.
Thank you, everybody, and appreciate your patience. A couple things here, real-time operations working group. So we have been busy. We do meet every couple months, every bi-monthly, that is. We do have very good attendance during those meetings as well, typically right around 50 participants per meeting. So last 2 meetings, we reviewed the EEA and system events, and we'll talk a little bit about those in the executive session. We approved modification of the SOL Exceedance Reporting Guide, RCO 130A. Kathy did mention that. We did that to line up the reporting categories with our alarming and our RTCA and what we expect to happen when we reach 125% in our TCA. So that was a much needed improvement that will reflect reflect in our metrics, I believe. We did have a long-term project where we created a Northwest Montana Path 80 operating guide. We worked with SPP, Northwest Energy, Pack and Pace, Spockham on all those guides. And it really became evident that we needed a guide in that area just due to the amount of mitigation that was occurring around that seam, and it's a complicated seam. And then just to really develop some consistent practices and get the RCs and the transmission operators on the same page to really make mitigation there efficient. So that was created, developed, and approved by the operationally affected parties. We also revised our Argonne Oxford IRO guide, and that was approved by the operational affected parties as well. One of the main items in that guide is now that RC will confirm with WEAM entities that they do have their tools set up to manage that cut plane when we approach the margin limits on the firewall limit. And then we also reviewed the Q2 RC metrics. So pretty active group, and there'll be some more updates here in a little bit on some of the task force that the RTWG reports with the OPWG, or is assembled into a joint task force. So we'll be talking about that. Samson and Raja will update you on those things. And that's it for the RTWG, unless there's questions.
All right, so we'll start with the Data Exchange Working Group update. So we're going to be meeting in about 2 weeks on September 7th, but this is a prequel to the meeting, if you will, to discuss some of the topics that are upcoming. If you go to the next slide. So with the cold weather task force that's been going between Data Exchange Working Group and a few other working groups, we've been looking for how to implement the changes to the new standard IRO 10-4. It has requirement 1.3 that includes the provisions for notifications of the BES generating units during local forecasted cold weather, and based on the following constraints listed here. If you go to the next slide. So upcoming with the new data, or with the upcoming meeting for Data Exchange Working Group, we got some action items brought from the cold weather task force that will be updating the data specification with the effective date of the new standard, which is April 1st of next year. With the scheduled and unscheduled outages sections, we'll be adding some guidance that the operating limitations are covered by the existing data that are provided by customers in Data Request 5.1, which relates to outages. And then for modeling data, we'll be adding a request on the static data for BES or BES impacting generators to include receiving the minimum design operating temperature or the minimum experienced operating temperature, so we have that data covered for extreme weather conditions. We're anticipating for EOP 12 that there may be some new requirements for more specific resource planning, but those changes won't be in effect as of next April, so we'll be working on those as they come up. Are there any questions at this time?
Once again, use the raise hand icon to enter the question queue, or use the chat feature to address it to all panelists. No one in the queue at this time.
Next item we have is Operation Planning and Real-Time Operation Working Group. Speakers, please mute yourself if you're going to speak for this section.
I think Raja is going to do the update first on the Frequency Monitoring and Mitigation Task Force.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
No. Now we can.
Okay.
Now we can.
Okay, you can hear me, right? Okay. Yeah, I think I will give the update on both on the frequency response monitoring as well as the RC 630 procedure update that Liching was scheduled for. So I have the slides from both of them. First, obviously, then the frequency response monitoring. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Raja Tapitobla. This is just an update. This work has been ongoing for the past 1 year, I believe. Aftab used to manage that, and now I'm giving an update on this work and what is the status of it and what is our steps going forward. Next slide, please. Yep, this is a background. I'm sure some of you are involved in this effort. Just from a background point of view, with the retirement of the BALVEC 002, RC West did some studies, and there was a concern from a frequency response point of view. There's a concern on with the system changes and everything, what happens to the frequency response from a post-contingency point of view, and if the frequency response is going to have issue on a UFLS where the UFLS are sketched at a point, if the post-contingency frequency is going to drop and trigger that, we'll have a widespread issue. So that's where this original concern arrived, and there's a RC West worked with the stakeholders and created a frequency response task force. Then the next slide, please. So this task force looked into different things, what type of contingencies that we need to monitor for these studies, and they agreed upon a certain n-1. There's a certain n-2 contingencies that has associated large amount of gen drop, right? So those are the contingencies that will be included in this study. And we also worked with external RC as well, with SPP and AESO, to understand what type of contingencies that we need to monitor for these studies to understand the frequency response from a post-contingency point of view. Next slide, please. And obviously, once you have the study, once you start calculating post-contingency frequency response using our online transit stability tool, now the next step would be what is for operators, right? What they need to be doing. That's where we looked into. The task force helped us to formulate a plan to create certain criteria, certain conditions where under those conditions what the operators will do, right? So in this procedure, what we came up with different levels, an alert level, and there's a critical level. And in the alert level, right, when the frequency, the post-contingency frequency in these tools is below 59.65, right, then what they need to take action, what type of actions that the RC operator need to work with the stakeholders, with the BAs, and so that the post-contingency issues are resolved. And if the contingency is below, if the frequency is below 59.60, we call it as a critical level, right? Then there's certain actions that the RC operator needs to take, right, to work with the BAs to improve the system profile so that the post-contingency frequency does not get below 59.60. It's a little bit far away from the UFLS, right? The idea is the studies that we do that right, that we wanted to build some margin with what we have and not go towards the UFLS voltages, UFLS frequency. Next slide, please. So this is where we are. We developed a procedure. We based upon both internal and external stakeholders reviews. We developed displays as well. We developed the PI displays for our operators so that they can monitor this, right? These are real-time tools, but obviously they have really complex tools, but we wanted to have this data in a nice format so the operators can see that and take actions, appropriate actions based upon this procedure. So we developed all that stuff, and what we want to do before we go into production, when I say production, implementation of this procedure, implementation of this process, we wanted to perform a parallel operations for some certain time frame. The idea of parallel operations is it will enable us for our operators to monitor these tools, for our real-time engineers to monitor these tools, and if there's any question of concern surrounding those the study results, there's an option where the stakeholders can work with our op engineers and actually deep dive into those study results and benchmark whatnot. So that gives us a time for us to make sure that gives us the confidence that these tools are working fine and we can go live. So this is where we're going to start parallel operations pretty soon in the next couple of weeks. And our plan is to go live with this procedure, with this process by start of winter. At least that's what we're shooting for. And once we finish parallel operations, then we will get that procedure approved and go into real-time operations. Any questions?
Again, use the raise hand icon to enter the question queue, or use the chat feature to address to all panelists.
Okay. If there's no questions, I will go into the next part of the presentation. This is the WebSmart OMS update. I know the agenda item says a procedure R630A update. So on June 13th, CAISO RC West, we with the help of a vendor, we moved into a new platform. It's still WebOMS. It's just a new platform, a new user interface, and new back-end systems for how the system collects the data, whatnot. This whole system is called WebSmart. We went from WebOMS. The system used to call WebOMS. It still will be called WebOMS. essentially what necessitated these changes, right? Previously, this tool was working in IE Explore, and IE Explore was retiring, so we had to move that to Chrome. And as part of that, OATA, our vendor, made a lot of changes within the tool to move this tool into this new platform. But the main function remains the same, right? How you coordinate, what happens with the state, right? How BAs use it, our RCs use it, our engineers use it, right? That hasn't changed. It's just some look has changed, look and feel on this tool has changed, and that's why we updated the RC 630A procedure, and that procedure has been updated with this new interfaces, and that procedure has been posted. Any questions? I think that's the slides on the 630 procedure update.
Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please use the raise hand icon or use the chat feature to address your questions to all panelists. At this time, we have no one in the queue.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Raja. Our last slide topic is for Operation Planning Real-Time Operation Working Group, Joint Task Forces.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. This is Samson Adigun with RC West. I'll provide you with an update on the efforts of the Joint Real-Time Working Group and Operations Planning Working Group Task Force. This task force is to work on improving the requirements for monitoring voltage SOLs. So far, there's been a lot of work in the last 6 months. The task force has been meeting bi-weekly. We're almost close to finalizing draft changes to the RC West SOL methodology. We're hoping to get that complete by the end of this month. That way we have something ready to present to the working group at the next working group meeting in September, September 8th. So the biggest change being proposed and almost finalized really has to do with normal system voltage limits. So we are proposing in the SOL methodology to allow TOPs to submit normal system voltage limits with time duration based on internal risk assessments by the TOP. However, when such limits are submitted, the methodology allows the RC and TOPs to treat these limits as continuous limits. The methodology would also allow a TOP to submit multiple normal system voltage limits with time duration. But again, the methodology allows the RC and TOPs to select only the least restrictive limit to monitor as continuous. This would also apply to the operations planning analysis timeframe, the outage planning timeframe, and seasonal assessment timeframes. The methodology includes a clause to ensure that TOPs, when creating system voltage limits, do not exceed protection settings or result in equipment failure in real time. So that's the current status. In progress, the task force is currently reviewing exclusion requirements for line-side series capacitor limits. Actually, this is complete as of the meeting we had earlier today, which is on that one item. And then we are also reviewing the feasibility of implementing these changes in RC West tools, as well as the process for submitting these limits. That way, the limits are available for all TOPs to view on the RC portal, as well as when those limits are submitted,
there is less manual work on the RC West side to implement these limits in our applications and tools. So there have been a lot of effort and, much appreciation to TOPs that have representatives on this task force, BPA, APS, Edison, PG&E, Tacoma, Pacific Core, Portland, Idaho, SRP, San Diego Gas and Electric, and they've all been very active participants in all of the discussions. So that's my update. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samson. Our next slide we have is future agenda items. And the next upcoming meeting has been moved to November 16th. And this is when we're going to have the meeting for the Oversight Committee. You'll see any updates on the RC website as well as the RC site on kaisel.com. At this time, I'll open the floor for any future agenda items. At this time, are there any open public comments? Just a reminder, everyone's unmuted. Please raise your hand. That way we can unmute you from your device. As well, we do have Senase on the phone line, so we did mark you here. Are there any last remarks from our chair or vice chair for today's meeting?
The only follow-up remark would be that, if you have agenda items that come up, something that you don't have today to submit, but you have something that comes up that you'd like to see on the agenda, you can reach out to Chris or I, or of course the RC to Tricia and get those on future agendas. So thank you. Thanks for attending the meeting today.
So now we will close this meeting. My event producer, feel free to close the meeting for us. Thank you.